Hey y'all, I watched a video from AFK Home 27 about gross negligence, waste, shoddy construction. I'm a carpenter. I build stuff. I can build stuff better than they're building stuff over there. Um, but the newscasters, I'm not sure who those guys were exactly, but they seemed biased. They seemed like they were definitely prejudicial. But they they were talking about cronyism. Well, I'm afraid that they're probably right. Cronyism has been running rampant ever since G-Dub got elected as president of the United States. And you have to look no further than Vice President Dick Cheney. Personally, I believe that that's why Bush hasn't had any assassination attempts up till now, because nobody wants Cheney for president. But Cheney is where all the cronyism starts. All right, let's face it, he hasn't done a damn thing as vice president. Why would he even want to be vice president? He's not a public servant. He's a businessman. Businessmen in corporate America today know one thing, and that's making money. So the only thing that I can see that stands to reason is he's there to make money. There's a lot of money in the American government. Dick Cheney has no intention of trying to run for president after his term as vice president. I look back to find out how many I couldn't think of any presidents or vice presidents in the recent past that didn't run for president for some reason. I come up with a list of them, and I'll narrate it as I go along. First up, Al Gore. You know he ran. Lost to Bush in the last election. Had it stolen from him. Next up, Dan Quayle. He got beaten by a popular Bill Clinton. We got George Bush. He ran. Walter Mondale ran with Geraldine Ferraro. Defeated badly. Nelson Rockefeller wasn't elected vice president. He ended up with the job after Nixon resigned. Gerald Ford, he ran. Also not elected president. He moved up to vice president when Nixon resigned. Spiro Agnew. Yeah, he wasn't allowed to become president. Hubert Humphrey ran. Lyndon B. Johnson ran. Richard Nixon ran. Alvin W. Barkley tried to run but ended up losing the nomination to Adlai Stevenson. Harry S. Truman, believe it or not, the S is supposed to stand for Solomon, but he ran. Wallace ran as VP under Roosevelt but was not renominated. Truman got the job. Same thing with Garner. Ran with Roosevelt, didn't get the job. Wallace got it. Curtis re-ran with President Hoover and was soundly defeated, so he gave up. Dawes. Oh, geez, this guy. We got stories about him. That'll come later. Calvin Coolidge ran. till we finally get to Thomas R. Marshall, and this is where the story gets. This is where the story comes to an end. Okay, first of all, I'd like to apologize for the length of this video. I don't tend to make videos this long because I don't want to take up 15 minutes of your time. But this is a long list of vice presidents we've got here. All of these guys re-ran with very, very few exceptions. Nelson Rockefeller wasn't even looking to be vice president. He was Speaker of the House. Nixon resigned. Ford moved up. Rockefeller moved up. It's a chain of command. He didn't want to be president. Agnew was charged with tax evasion. Crook. We got a couple of guys that weren't renominated for one reason or another. Dawes was the worst vice president in history, without question. President Coolidge hated him. The Senate hated him. Nobody even wanted him. He was the fourth guy to be nominated for vice president. The first three guys turned the job down. They said they didn't want to do it. So you know, he was a nightmare VP until you get all the way to Thomas R. Marshall from 1913 to 1921. When Wilson had a stroke, nobody really knew how bad off he was. Marshall wasn't allowed to see President Wilson. There were people whispering in his ear that said, you know, you need to have President Wilson declared incapacitated here with his stroke, and then you can become acting president of the United States. But that system hadn't really been set up and established really, and he didn't want to make precedent, so he declined to have President Wilson declared incapacitated, and just never ran for president. Says that apparently he had low self-esteem. His peers had no respect for him whatsoever. Wilson was just giving him jobs to keep him out of Wilson's hair, so you know, Wilson he doesn't have to worry about what this guy over here. I know what he's doing. He's over there doing what I told him to do, and he didn't want. He trying to keep this guy from making a mess of his presidency. Hated him. So why would Dick Cheney not want to try to become president? Everybody else has. Everybody else that had a shot at being president took it. So the only guys that didn't attempt to run were either crooks, despised by their party, or just generally failures as vice president. And then we come to Dick Cheney. Thanks for listening.